Okay, so we are coming up to the amazing holiday of Shavuot. And Shavuot is the day that we got the Torah. But the tzaddikim tell us that really the whole thing about getting the Torah is really not so much about the Torah. The Torah is actually just a little detail. But really what's going on is a bit of a wedding. And that there's a chasna going on. And this chasna, it's not so clear who's the chasna, who's the kala. That in some places it seems like it's a chasna going on with the Torah. In some places it seems like it's a chasna with Hashem. But it's certainly a chasna. And the Rizal teaches that a lot of people, so they say that on the Shavuot they do something called tikkun. They do tikkun Shavuot. One of the things that tikkun Shavuot is that we say a little piece, like the beginning and the end of all this farm. And the Rizal says that what's the thing about saying the tikkun Shavuot? So it says that the 24 books of Tanakh are corresponding to 24 kishute kala. It says that's like back in the day. So kala on the wedding day would wear 24 pieces of jewelry. And so we're trying to adorn ourselves with these 24 pieces of jewelry. Okay, don't forget that for your wedding. Like nowadays we say not to wear any jewelry, right? Yeah. So I don't know when that switched, but so we're trying to put on 24 pieces of jewelry, and that's the way we're adorning ourselves. And the Rizal writes that's the men go to the mikveh before davening on Shavuos morning, and it's part of the tikkun. We're like a kala that's getting ready for their wedding. And then I once saw on the sefer that he brings midrashim that when we got the luchos, when we got the tablets at Har Sinai, so it was like a wedding ring, and when Hashem put the Har Sinai on top of us, it was like a chuppah, and so everything, all of the imagery of receiving the Torah was really pointing towards a wedding that's going on. So this is really reframing. This is really reframing everything, and it really begs the question that what's the point of getting married? You know, that what is important to have this covenant that we're in a marriage with Hashem. And I sometimes I wonder that I don't. I mean, I understand this. I think that people should wonder that what's the tachlis of actually being married? Like, why can't you be just boyfriend girlfriend forever? You can have a boyfriend girlfriend with a home, with the kids, with everything. You gotta. What's the point? What's the point of being married? So the reason why it's the nafkamina of being married is actually the commitment. Okay, and so when we're talking about having a chuppah, we're talking about having a marriage with Hashem. So this marriage to Hashem, this marriage to Torah, so it means that there's a certain commitment. And what's the element of the commitment? What's unique about having a commitment is that when you have a commitment, so even if things don't go so simply, so then it's still going to work out. Like that when you're committed to something, so that means you understand that it's not always going to be rosy, and despite the fact that there's going to be hurdles, there's going to be downs, but that's part of our love story. That's part of when you're committed to something. So you know that this is just one chapter, and we're going to get through it. And it's only because we have this commitment that we have the energy to go through this. We have the capability to take a step back and say that it's gonna be okay. So when we're talking about the Torah as being this Matan Torah as being a wedding, so there's something very interesting that I once saw from Rav Pincus that he talks about the fact that a lot of people what we do the whole night of Shavuos is we learn Torah, and we're connected to the actual act of learning Torah, the mitzvah of learning Torah. And so you notice that there's an interesting thing, that the Torah never says outright you have to learn Torah. And like it does say, and like the Gemara says that we learn now, the Gemara in Kedushin says that we learn that there's a mitzvah to learn Torah. It's a very important, it's a important part of being Jewish is learning Torah. But the Gemara in Kedushin says that the source of the mitzvah to learn Torah is that it says, that there's a mitzvah to teach your children. And so the Gemara says, well, if you have to teach your children, so you have to teach yourself as well. So that's why we have to learn Torah. But it doesn't actually say outright that you have to learn Torah. So he addresses this very interesting thing. Like if such a very basic thing in Judaism of learning Torah, that like the whole Shavuot, the whole becoming Jewish is all about learning Torah. So how could it be that something so basic in Judaism isn't explicit in the Torah? And so he takes a metaphor from the world of marriage, and he says that in weddings, so we have a ketubah, right? So what is a ketubah? So ketubah is that it says the obligations that specifically the financial obligations that a husband has to his wife, and it says all these like unromantic things that he has to make sure that she always has food to eat, that she has clothing, that if she gets sick, he has to take her to the doctor. If she gets kidnapped, he has to ransom her. If she dies, he has to bury her, and that's the obligations of a husband to the wife. And so yes, like how come it doesn't say in the Ksubah that a husband has to talk to his wife? So I would assume that Hashem does want husbands to talk to their wives. No. It's like if a woman was to say to her husband, like, how come you never listen to me? He says, like, I just signed that I would bury you if you die. I never signed that I would talk to you, So he says something very deep, and that is that what is the ksuba? That the ksuba is the t'naim, it's the conditions of the relationship, right? And you can't have conditions to a relationship, you can't have rules to a relationship unless you have a relationship, right? So that if you're not on speaking terms with your spouse, so then like there isn't really a place to say that yes, these are your financial obligations. Right? But first you have to have a relationship, and only after it you have a relationship. So then there's the rules, then there's the guidelines of that relationship. So that's why when in the Torah is the rules. Okay, the Torah is the ksuva. The Torah is the obligations that we have to one another, and you can't say in the ksuba that you have to talk to each other, because that's the relationship itself. And so this shows us that our relationship with Torah isn't just another rule, that our relationship with Torah is actually the relationship itself. Okay? And that's why there's a very fascinating thing, that there's a halacha that that we say in the morning because of Torah. And because of Torah, we thank Hashem for the obligation to learn Torah. So it says that if a person forgot to say because of Torah, so you don't have to say it after davening, because if you daven the full davening, so there's a bracha called Avarabba, Avos Olam, Avarabba, and so it says that blessing of Avarabba, that counts instead of because of Torah. So it's an interesting thing that if you look at the bracha, so it's really like Torah is not the predominant theme of the bracha. Like it's about how much Hashem loves us, and it is we say Haboicher be'am Yisrael be'ava, that Hashem chose us with love, and it does like the bracha is not about Torah. The bracha is about how much Hashem loves us and how much Hashem chooses us, and yet the Gemara says, and this is the halacha, that bracha of Haboicher be'am Yisrael be'ava, that constitutes Birkas Torah. Or in other words, that instead of saying, thank you Hashem for giving us the Torah, you can say, thank you Hashem for loving us so much. So if Chazal see that this is synonymous, so that means that when Hashem gave us the Torah, that was his way of saying that I love you so much, and just I want us to always be together. Right? So it gives a different context for what learning Torah is all about, that when Hashem gave us this mitzvah of learning Torah, so the purpose of learning Torah was specifically that as a way of connecting, as a way of living out this love story that we have with Him. So this is a very important like intro, a very important context to the mitzvah of learning Torah, because it tells us that you can't divorce the Torah from its source, from the nice in the Torah, from the giver of the Torah. So what happens? What happens if you do? What happens if a person's relationship with Torah is just about Torah? It's not about Hashem. It's about I love learning Torah. So there's two problems. First of all, if it's not about a relationship, if there's no relationship in Torah, so then a person naturally comes to Torah that it's all about me. Okay? And a person that's not trying to connect to Hashem, so what's he actually trying to do? So he's trying to be super smart. He's trying to be the biggest genius in class, and be the biggest genius in the block, and that everybody should look up to me. And Chazal have a lot to say about this, about a person that their relationship to Torah is about their ego, and they like being the smartest Torah scholar, and they like getting awards, and they love getting applauded, and they love receiving honor. And the Mishnah says in Pirkei Avos that the ishtamish b'tag ha'chalaf, a person that's a Torah scholar, that his relationship with Torah is that he wants to derive benefit from Torah, so then he deserves to die. It's better, like the whole thing, his whole Torah is not just like zero, it's nevera. It's something very, very off, it's very twisted. And one of the examples of ishtamish b'tag ha'chalaf is a person that when they're in college, they can't think of a good major. They can't think of what they want to. They can't. They spoke to their career counselor, and the career counselor said, "I don't know. You're a tough one. Maybe you should be a career counselor." And so he says, I know. I remember when I was in yeshiva, I was good at that. I'll be a rabbi. I'll be a rabbi. At least like in Israel, it's not so great, but in America, you can get a very fine salary. And if you, I'm good at speaking, I'm good at doing funerals, and so it's an easy income, and so that's what the Gemara says is that's ishtamish b'tag ha'chalaf, that person that when they're learning Torah in order to be a big rabbi, so then it's a horrible affair that they deserve to die for such a thing, right? Like meaning that if your relationship with Torah is about your ego, so then that's not neutral, that's treif, right? So this is the first problem. The first problem with divorcing Torah from its source is that if it's not about Hashem, so it's about me. It's about just promoting myself, and it's about my ego. And the second problem is just as dangerous. And the Gemara says that the Torah can sometimes be a elixir of life, and sometimes it can be an elixir of death. It says because we say in Shema v'samtem is the ela. So the Gemara says, what does it mean samtem? It's a samtam. Sam is a drug. So it can be the drug of life, or it can be the drug of death. Okay, so who decides? You decide that if you're gonna do it with the right intentions, with the right conditions, so then it's going to be the drug of life, and if you're not, then it's going to be the drug of death. So what does that mean? Well, how can Torah be poison? How can Torah be something that's going to make you want to die? So I think that this is really the difference. That if it's not about a relationship with Hashem, so then what is it? So then it's actually just a bunch of rules. And if Torah is just about like, this is all the stuff that you can't do, this is all the stuff that you need to do, this is that, like, you feel like a slave. And this is if you're not in a relationship, like imagine if I would tell you that, like, okay, I have big news, you're going to get married tomorrow, and so you say, oh my gosh, like, tell me about it. What does that mean? So I'll tell you what it means. It means that once a year you have to buy flowers, and you have to write a poem with the flowers. Okay, and then every day after work, so you have to make a phone call, and every day you have to make sure that you take out the garbage, and you have to make sure that you make sure that your laundry gets in the hamper, and that's about it. That's about it. Like, so that's what it means to be married. So yeah, that's a. So like it doesn't sound so exciting, and not only does it not sound exciting, but it's going to obviously breed resentment. Like I don't need this. I like it that I don't have to put my clothes in the hamper. I can do without that. And if Torah is just about rules, then it's really messed up. Like that once the when I would when I do weddings, so sometimes I make a joke. Like before the Kriyas Ksuba, so I say so and so actually prepared a love letter for so and so, and then I bring out the Ksuba, and so if you think about it, so a Ksuba is not it's not actually a love letter, right? It's like I said before, a Ksuba is actually it's a list of monetary obligations, but the truth is the real truth is, and people. Like some people, like they spend 1,000 shekel to make an artistic ksuba, and they put it in the dining room. And like, what is why it's? I tell you what it says. It's not so romantic. Like why are you putting this up in your dining room? And so the reason is that it's not a love letter, but it's a letter which is written to someone you love. It's a letter which is written of love. It's the essence of the ksuba is because I love you so much. That's why I'm willing to commit. That's why I want to make you feel secure. I want you to make you know that whenever you need me, whatever you expect from me. So like I'm doing it with love. I'm there for you. And so that commitment, that is itself the greatest expression of love. So the ksuba actually is a love letter in its deepest source. So this is if a person is going to divorce Hashem from the Torah, and his relationship with the Torah is simply going to be it's a bunch of rules. So then it's going to be poison. And then the people that get turned off from Judaism. So the reason why they turn off from Judaism is specifically because of this. It's because they grew up with a Judaism that is just a bunch of rules, and they don't get the point. Like maybe some people enjoy not going to non-kosher restaurants, but I don't enjoy it. For me, it's just annoying. So if Judaism is just about what I'm not doing, so then like I'm ready to switch. I'm ready to get free. But if there's a focus on the purpose, if there's a focus on the wedding, if there's a focus on that, like Judaism is not just a bunch of rules, that the rules is the conditions, but what's really happening is that you're getting married to the love of your life, that there's something awesome happening, that your soul is reaching a source. So then that puts a different perspective on all of the mitzvahs, on what learning Torah is all about. So this is really like a whole new perspective of what Torah is, and I think that I understood this idea from a very beautiful midrash. That there's a midrash called Tana Develio, which is a compilation of it's mostly from one of the Tanaim, from Reb Abba, and Reb Abba reports that he had the privilege of learning Torah with none other than Eliyahu Hanavi. That Eliyahu Hanavi would come and teach him Torah. Yeah, this is a thing. It's an actual thing that Eliyahu Hanavi came over generations. He taught Torah to many tzaddikim. We know they taught to the Arizal. We know they talked to the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. He taught to the Gra. Even in more recent generations, the Chavetz Chaim spoke to Eliyahu Hanavi. The Rebbe Lopian spoke to Eliyahu Hanavi. That it's a real thing that Eliyahu Hanavi teaches Torah to people. And so the first time that it was compiled was with Tana Develio. So he reports over there that in Tana Develio that there was a discussion in Shemayim. What was the very first thought? What was the very first thought of Hashem? So he reported that it was the discussion between the angels, between the Beis Medrash Shamayla, Pamala Shamayla, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And there's different angels, and I don't remember who said what, but that some angels said that the first thought was the thought of the Torah, the machshava of the Torah. And the other angels thought that the first thought was machshavtan Shal Yisrael. That was the thought of the Jewish people. And Eliyahu Hanavi says that, and I agree with those angels that said that it was machshavtan Shal Yisrael. shekadma lakol, that the very, very first thing, before anything, so was the thought of the Jewish people. Right? So if you think about it, so these two perspectives of what was the first thought, so are actually two very different Judaisms. In other words, that let's say that the first thought was the thought of the Torah. So what does that mean? That Hashem's first prerogative, that his first agenda, the most important thing, that when he's coming to create a world, the first thing is, I need my Torah. What does it mean, I need my Torah? It means that I have ideals, I have rules, I have values, I want my truths, I want my values to be spread, I want my values to be expressed in the world. So that's my first agenda. That is my overarching desire in creation. And so then I think, so how to do it? So I need a staff, I need a team. So now I'll create a Jewish people, so they'll be my team, right? So if that's the way that Judaism works, if that's the way that the creation works, so what's our purpose? We're Hashem's ambassadors, right? Really, the point is the Torah, and we're here to serve the Torah. So that's what Eliyahu Navi says. That's not what Judaism is all about. So what is the truth? So he says that Machshavtim Sheisah was the first thought. The first thought is that I need to have a relationship. I need to be married to the Jewish people, that they're so amazing, they're so beautiful, I love them so much that I need to have them in my life 24/7. So that's the first thing. That is why I did everything. That's why he created the entire galaxy. And then he says, so what do we do? We're we're on a date, and Hashem is looking at us, and he's talking about the weather, family food philosophy, and there's so what do we do? We're going to spend all eternity together. How are we supposed to relate? So Hashem says, so I'll make a Torah. That we'll have something to talk about. We'll have something in our lives that we'll be able to have a relationship. I'll give you jobs. I'll give you stuff to talk about. I'll give you discussions. And the purpose of the Torah is for the relationship, not vice versa. Right? So it's mamish at 180 degrees from what I think that most people are taught in school. That they said if you ask a 5, 6, 7-year-old kid, what's the point of your life? They say I learned at school that we're here to serve Hashem, and so the serving Hashem is not the point. The point is to be in love with Hashem. The point is to be in a relationship with Hashem. Serving Hashem, that's what we do. We're on a date, so there's an awkward silence. There's an awkward silence. So Hashem says, "Hey, could you make me a coffee?" And that's what Torah is all about. That's what Mitzvos is all about. It's not about that Hashem needs our coffee. It's that Hashem just wants to have something to do with us. Okay? So this is a very, very, very new take on what everything in Judaism is about, and specifically what Limud Torah is all about. So once we have this understanding that it's like a wedding, so now we understand a different thing that Chazal tell us about Torah. That is that we know by a wedding. So you've heard the concept of soulmates, right? Right. So everybody's waiting to find their soulmates. I have a class that it could be that there's not such a thing nowadays, but there is such a concept of soulmates that the Gemara says in Sota that 40 days before a baby comes into the world, so then there's a bas kol that comes out that so and so is meant to marry so and so. Okay, what's this thing about soulmates? So that there's a certain destiny that everybody has to their spouse, right? That it was simply meant to be, match made in heaven, right? And yet that of all the decisions that we ever make in our life, so this is perhaps the greatest decision that we make. Right? Almost everything just happens to us, and this is the one thing that we're absolutely involved. We're absolutely present in being proactive in this. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to do it, right? Putting on tefillin, nobody asked me, do you want to put on tefillin today? But when it comes to getting married, if you don't want to get married, so you're not going to get married. You're not allowed to get married if you don't want to get married. So there's I once saw that that's why the mitzvah of getting married is the one mitzvah that has not just one bracha, but it has 7 brachas. Because Because the more desire you have in something, the more free will you have in something, the more decision you have in something, that's how much blessing there is. Okay, so every mitzvah, so nobody cares if you want to do it. It's nice if you want to do it, but you have to do it because you got to do it. So there's one bracha. But getting married, so then because there's bechira, so because there's choice, so then it's the choice that makes it real, the choice that makes it full of bracha. So in marriage we have this paradox that on the one hand, so it was meant to be, it was predestined, and on the other hand, so it's mamish the greatest choice that I ever made. And so this is the exact same thing when it comes to Torah. That every time that I'm showing up to Torah, so I'm choosing if I want to learn. When I think about elements of Torah, when I think about ideas of Torah, so then, as far as I'm concerned, I'm the one thinking. Nobody is programming me. Nobody is downloading anything to me. I'm being active in my thoughts, and yet, Chazal tells us something very spectacular, and that is that every Jewish baby, so before he comes into the world, so he's actually learning the entire Torah. And before we come into the world, before we start, so then we actually are completely received the Torah, and it was all there. And then before we come into the world, so then the angel slaps us on the mouth, and we forget the Torah. But actually, our relationship with Torah was there before we started. So then, what's our entire life of learning Torah? Our entire life of learning things. So it's actually not finding something new. It's actually just reconnecting to something that was always there. Right? That's why there's a very interesting thing that when we use a term when we hear something that sounds right. That sounds like it really just, it really feels like it was meant to be. So we use the term that it resonates. That idea resonates with me. Right? So what's this word resonates? The word resonates is actually a musical term. So the word resonate means that when you have a certain tone, and if that's going through the room, if you have a string that is tuned it's tuned with that tone, so then it will absorb the vibrations in the air, and it'll start shaking in accordance with that vibration that's in the air, right? I've seen this. I've seen this with my guitar. That there's sometimes a certain tone, and just like, and you'll see that nobody touched the strings, and they start vibrating, right? So what do we mean when we say that idea resonates with me? What do we mean? It means that I hear an idea, meaning that there's a vibration going through the room, and my inner strings are tuned to that idea. And so then I feel myself vibrating. Why do I feel myself vibrating? Because I'm that string that was pre-tuned to that tone. And if I wouldn't have been pre-tuned to that tone, so that I wouldn't be vibrating. So the fact that that's resonating with me, so that proves that I was meant for it. Or in other words, that when Hashem created us, so we were crafted for Torah, just like Torah was crafted for us. Right? So there's something very personal, and there's something very real about the relationship with Torah. And there's not something external. This is everything about Torah is that we're learning more about ourselves. The more that we learn Torah, the more that we learn about ourselves. The more that we learn ourselves, the more we're understanding Torah. In other words, that we say that it says that Torah is supposed to be sweet. So then, if a person learns Torah and he doesn't find Torah to be sweet, so then there's something off. Either, there's two options. Either that you're misunderstanding Torah, and you're not learning the real thing. Really, you're learning some twisted Torah that was never meant, that Hashem never wanted it, and that's very possible. That you're learning what some rabbis decided is supposed to be Judaism, and it's really nothing to do with the real Judaism. And there's another possibility. It could be that you're learning the real Judaism, but you don't know about yourself. That you've been poisoned, you've been programmed by whatever culture or whatever society is that you think that this is what you really want, and really you don't realize that the way you're going, so that's not going to bring you happiness, that's not going to get you anywhere, and it's actually going to just bring you frustration. Get in tune with yourself. Once you are in tune with yourself, then you'll see how sweet Torah really is. And this is something that I experienced. That I teach in a conversion program. I teach a lot of gerim. And the the holiday of Shavuot is a holiday of Gerim. It's a holiday that we celebrate converts, and that we celebrate converts because by reading about the Megillas Ruth, that on Shavuot, which is one of the most famous Geruses in history, that she chose to come to the Jewish nation of her own volition, and that the reason, and part of the reason why we're connected to Gerim on Shavuot is specifically because we learned how to become Jewish. By the way, the Klal Yisrael became Jewish at Har Sinai, right? So by Gerim, so I consistently hear the same story, that if you think about it, like when a person chooses to become Jewish, so like that's the greatest decision that they can make, right? Nobody forced them. They didn't they totally didn't have to be Jewish. They were like, if you ask the rabbi, like, Rabbi, do I need to be Jewish? They say, you absolutely don't have to be Jewish. Like, Hashem is completely happy with you if you stay not Jewish. And they're doing it just because they want to. Like, it's like, no, it's a crazy thing. Like Hashem doesn't tell you have to be Jewish, and like, I'm doing it just because I want to. I was thinking, like, I was walking the street the other day, and I saw that somebody dropped something, and the guy behind him who was secular, so he picked it up and he ran after the guy to give it back to him. And so it's that's regular. It's like, it's a good thing. Like, you should all do it, right? It's called Hashavas Aveda, right? So then I started thinking to myself, if I would do such a thing, so I don't know if I would, of course I would run after him, but I'm so programmed to think, oh, he dropped his thing, you have a Hashavas Aveda. Right? So like Hashem says that you should give it back to him. So I'm giving it back to him. He's so fortunate, fortunate that like he doesn't have that. So when he's giving it, he's not doing it because Hashem says to do it. He's doing it because he just really wants to be a good person. And that's something that like I have less opportunity to want to be a good person because I mean, Baruch Hashem, of course, I'm fortunate that because Hashem tells me to have to be a good person. But I'm missing that ability to do it because I want to, right? So when a non-Jew converts to Judaism, so that it's the greatest act of I want to. Like Hashem doesn't tell me I have to do it, and I still do it. And yet that consistently, they tell me the same story, that they heard this voice, that there's inner calling, that like I just need it. I felt I am part of the Jewish people. It's just there. I can't deny it. I can't escape it. And there's nothing that I could possibly do would help me succeed in running away from my fate, from my destiny, from my identity. And I just need to be part of the Jewish people. And so it's such a paradox that the greatest choice, that nobody's forcing me to do it, they feel mamish forced. And of course, the father of all such paradoxes is the Klal Yisrael themselves. That it says that before we when we receive the Torah at Har Sinai, so everybody knows that Hashem asked us, do you want it? And we said, yeah, we want it, Nasa v'nishma. And then after we said we wanted it, so then we have this strange story that it says, Kaf alem har kegigas, that it said that Hashem took Har Sinai and he held it over our heads, and he says, either accept the Torah or else. And so everybody asks, like, why do you need, like, why does Hashem need to force us into it? Like, we already said yes. We already said yes. So all the Mepharshim explain that Hashem is telling us that, like, you think you chose, but really, it's you don't really get it. Really, the whole choice thing was actually an illusion. The truth is that you are in this matrix, that it couldn't have been any other way. You were built for this. It was built for you. That this was your destiny. So that Hashem allows us to choose our destiny, to come back to what was always meant to be. And there's something beautiful about this, that when we come to Torah, so it's like meeting a new friend and feeling like you've known them your entire life. And this is just, it was meant to be, and there's something that was always there waiting for us. And so this is why that Chazal tell us that after the Malach teaches us Torah, so even though we forget everything, but there is something left. There's something what it's called a reshimu. There's some residue left from that whole experience, And the experience is that what the residue that's left is that feeling of belonging, that feeling of that it's when it comes, then we were reminded that it was always meant to be. Okay? So this is the marriage that was meant to be between us and the Torah, is that we were crafted for Torah, and Torah is crafted for us, and this is reminding us that this, when we're saying that it's a marriage, we're saying that it's a bashert, we're saying that it's our soulmate, which means that it's always meant to be. And there's the last thing that I want to note, that in preparation for this amazing day, is that going back to the commitment to Torah, that the marriage, that as long as everything is rosy, so then you don't need to be married, right? The whole difference of if you're in a commitment is specifically when things aren't so smooth, right? And this is something that we also see in the story of Ruth, that Ruth wanted to come to Torah and gets thrown down the stairs, and she gets pushed away, and Naomi tells her, like, no, it's not going to work, and she refuses to take no for an answer. But Torah kimisametzas, that she's just very, very stubborn about this. That Naomi says that she's stubborn, that she won't take, only after she saw that stubbornness, that I can't have it any other way. So only then was she accepted. Only then was it a happy ending. And so that with our relationship with Torah, so like some people it's easy. Some people have an easy relationship with Torah. Some people they learn in school and they don't have any issues with any mitzvos, and they live a religious life and they never have any questions, never have any problems, never have any traumas, and Shavuot is reminding us that, for people like that, you don't need to get married. That the whole chasna that's happening tomorrow night is specifically built for the people that things don't go so easy. For the people that you're trying, but people don't want to accept you. People don't want to embrace you. People say, no, like what you're trying to do can't exist. That either do it my way or just get out of here. And people that are trying to be accepted and trying to be understood, and it's just not going. And this is what David HaMelech is teaching us, that like we're celebrating the Yartzeit of David HaMelech and Shavuot as well, that David HaMelech he didn't have an easy time. He was the outcast. He was the Eved Ma'asu Habonim. He was the rock that all of the builders discarded, that he said, oh, you're nothing, you'll never make it. That everything was dependent on him. And he was the underdog. And he was the one that nobody thought could make it, the one that nobody saw any greatness in him, but we saw that everybody made a mistake. And the Shavuot is this time for even the people that it doesn't seem like they can have a relationship with Torah, and they keep on trying, it just doesn't seem to work. They know deep down that like this is where I want to be. I do want to have a relationship with Torah, and just like every time I try, so it's just I feel this pain, I feel this distress, I feel this trauma, but I keep on trying. I keep on trying, and this is what Shavuos is reminding us, that the whole chasna, this whole commitment, this whole chuppah that is happening. So you don't need a chuppah if everything's going to be smooth. You don't need the chuppahs, everything is going to be easy. And the commitment is that we are not going to take no for an answer. And even when we're not in the mood, even when when things are hard, to remind ourselves that, okay, like we'll get through this. We'll get through this. Like this is one chapter, there's going to be another chapter. Like tomorrow's a new day. Today it didn't work, it didn't seem well. Okay, like next week I'll try again. I tell people people ask me how I got involved with Rabbi Nachman, and it was not love at first sight. It was like the first time I started learning Rabbi Nachman, I didn't get it at all, and it's just like people were pressuring me. Yeah, this is so amazing, and like I tried, and I said, I don't know, this is just boring, and like 2 years later, I tried again, And like, no, this is just confusing. Third time, like, I don't know, I think he's cuckoo, I think he's like look what he's saying, he's saying such a silly things, such ridiculous things. And before it took 6 times before I saw something in Rabbi Nachman. And since then, that's like he's everything to me. And so like that there's this not taking no for an answer, for like knowing that like it's okay if things aren't smooth right now. It's okay that if things don't go as easily as you would have imagined them, that we're in here for the long haul. Okay? And that's what chasnas are about. That's what commitments are all about. So I bless us all that we should remember that we are fortunate to be in a very long-term relationship with Hashem, and this is really the purpose of everything. The purpose of the mitzvahs, the purpose of Torah, is only for the purpose of this relationship. It's only for the purpose of being able to be close to Him, to become close to the source, and that this is what makes Torah sweet. This is what makes Torah into the elixir of life. This is what makes Torah into something which is going to enhance our lives. And Torah is not a problem to be solved. Torah is the solution. Torah is what makes everything livable. It's what helps us remain sane. And so I bless us all that we should be able to see the sweetness and to see the bracha and see the warmth of Torah B'ezat Hashem. Chaim, Chag Sameach.